talk on Emirates' interest in the Airbus A380neo, like I've always said, appears quite frequently, but never on the channel have I really dug back into where all of this first started. That's exactly what I'd like to do today. Has it just been something that's popped up in the last 4 to 5 years, or is it something that can date back over a decade? Well, surprisingly, it's actually the latter. Emirates, we know, has championed the usage of the A380-800 for well over a decade, at its peak having over 100 active units flying. And with such a focus on this model, naturally, the progression would move towards a new model. However, without this model releasing and comments in recent years, let's explore whether the interest in the new engine option actually existed before the last couple of years, and what did it really entail? So, to begin with, Emirates remains the largest operator of the A380 by a country mile. You don't need me to tell you that twice. The airline has really built its brand around this aircraft, leveraging the high capacity and passenger appeal to help grow the network, and to buy its home into a powerhouse for transit travel. Now, the objective to make it even more of a destination that people want to visit permanently. As a result, with so many A380s in the fleet, it's not hard to see why there's been interest in a possible A380neo model, for no adequate replacement exists in the current Airbus portfolio of commercial aircraft. Emirates has been forced, however, to look elsewhere, and this has included a heavier reliance on twin-engined aircraft such as the 777X moving forward. Despite the cost advantages these planes will have on their long-haul network, they will struggle to complete the job of the A380 because of their smaller stature, but with no dedicated replacement, there's no real other alternative. Onto their interest in the A380neo, it actually far predates just the last few years. You're looking at interest emerging in 2014. The Dubai-based carrier at the time, led by President Tim Clark, spoke with the Financial Times about the proposition of a new A380 model launching sometime in the future. At this point, it's key to remember the A380 was still active, the plane was still being delivered, and the manufacturer had yet to see what would unfold with the program that would ultimately lead to its demise. This is quite different to a lot of the interest we've seen in the last couple of years, when we have this interest knowing the A380 is no longer an actively produced aircraft. Emirates was really one of the only publicly vocal customers expressing interest in the possibility of a new model being launched. It was already the largest operator of the Dash 800, and at that point still had many more on order. In an interview, Clark reaffirmed, saying in 2014 that they were interested in the launch, and if the project was to move forward, they would buy it on a sheer scale of numbers equating to some 60 to 80 units. In recent years, discussions from all parties surrounding an A380neo has cooled, driven by airlines shifting away from quad-engine jets more than ever. But did Airbus actually react to the wish from Emirates more than 10 years ago? Well, with all the changes in the Airbus A380 program in the last 11 years, there was a point where Airbus did actually entertain this. The chief commercial officer speaking with Aviation Week in 2014 that internal studies were underway to help determine whether a future existed for the next generation A380 release. With much of the interest in the jet centering around the adoption of new engines and other minor improvements, if released, the manufacturer needed to determine whether there would be enough demand to warrant the investment and what the return would look like. These studies at the time could have seen an estimated 6-year process before the jet would have formally launched, in time for the commencement of the new decade or 2020, and with hindsight, well, the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic, which also ironically spelled the end of the series for many a reason. Right before the pandemic, and with no A380neo model really emerging, it did not come without Airbus's own push to try and sell more of the A380-800s. It just simply didn't work. Airlines had moved on, and Emirates went on to slash its commitments to the Super Jumbo. This doesn't mean it still wasn't interested in the A380neo, but its fleet makeup was changing. Despite Airbus moving ahead with those internal studies, like I mentioned, a decision to proceed with the jet did not eventuate, and Airbus would reveal the development study of the A380 Plus towards the back end of the 2010s in hopes of showing what possible innovation would give to customers. This failed. Emirates, the only airline customer expressing interest in the model, firmly believed the A380neo would be the answer, not the Plus. So it wasn't a surprise when the A380 Plus had little to no interest. Now, even with the airline's President Clark resurfacing discussions about a re-engine every handful of months, production has closed on the A380-800 and priorities lie elsewhere. Airbus, alongside engine makers, are busy studying the new era of commercial aircraft travel, and a prospective NEO would further derail plans and fundamentally take away space and resources from these studies, only to please the likely one interested customer. Ultimately, Emirates' long-standing interest did prompt some internal studies in the mid-2010s from the manufacturer, but with no action, and production ending on the A380, the A380neo's fate had all but been sealed. But it's interesting to go back and see, have these discussions around a prospective new variant only emerged in, say, the last 3 to 4 years? The answer is no. Emirates has actually been attempting to put forward this prospective jet for 11 years, if not even longer internally. Let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in a couple of days.